Having come from very humble beginnings, I've come to a conclusion, and that conclusion is simply the fact that there is one reason that most people stay poor, and that same reason also makes a few very wealthy and financially free. You see, I was born into a great family. Father, mother, exceptional people, exceptional. We understood what I would call spiritual abundance. We had gratitude, we had the right attitude. William James said that the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. So we had the right attitude, we had the right philosophy about life and living. And I believe that laid the foundation for who I am today and who I will be in the future as I continue to work on my gifts and skills and talents and as I continue to grow. Now, although we were spiritually wealthy, if you allow me to use that word, we were financially poor. And I believe that the reason for that was because of this one simple word, one reason. Now, every coin has three sides. You have the heads, you have the tail. Now, in life, you have one of two options. You can choose one side, or you can decide to stand on the edge. And standing on the edge will allow you to look down in that direction or to look down in that direction. This word and this reason is simply the word habit. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you about how habits create wealth. But more importantly, I want to talk about one or two habits that I want you to start thinking about. Every year, we all set goals. We have what we call New Year's resolutions. For most people, they start the year with very, very high energy and enthusiasm. And what I've found is that there are two important things you need to really create a successful life. I believe that the first is education. And if you combine that with motivation or inspiration, I believe that you can really fashion for yourself a really successful life. Now, many people have argued with me a number of times, and they've said, no, you've got to start with motivation. And I say there's nothing wrong with motivation. But one of the biggest tragedies we have in the world today is ignorance. I believe ignorance is the cause for a lot of the wars we're fighting. Ignorance is the cause for we looking at the next person and saying, you're black and I'm white. Because we don't realize that this is simply a shell. We are spirits. And because we are spirits, we're all the same. We're simply living in a body. The color of the skin has no bearing in who you are. The real you, think about this. The best part of you, the real you, will never be seen by the human eye because it's a spirit. But that's ignorance. We have ignorance and we hold on to our ignorance so passionately. The problem with starting with motivation is that if you are ignorant, or in other words, if you're stupid, if you're an idiot, and you combine your ignorance with motivation, then what you have is someone who is a motivated idiot. Meaning, you have all that energy and that drive, but unfortunately it's founded on the wrong philosophies. On the other hand, if you're educated, but without motivation, then you're what we call an educated derelict. Meaning, you just know too much, but you're not willing to take a leap. So you need a combination of both. And my recommendation is always, you've got to know where you are. To know where you are, you've got to have education. Life change doesn't begin with inspiration and motivation. Life change really begins with education. If you want to travel from one destination to another, and you were traveling by car, and let's assume this car had a GPS system, the first thing the GPS system would do is actually put in the destination, but it would only calculate the route after it's determined your location. Now, to understand your location, you must have education. And so, education helps you understand the power of habits. The difference between the wealthy and the poor is habits. Habits make the rich richer, habits make the poor poorer. It's really that simple. Now you might be thinking, how simple is it? It comes down to choices. It comes down to choices. Now, how do habits create our destiny, and how are habits formed? Habits are simply ideas. Now, I'm going to show you what we call a chronology of how habits are formed. What you see, what you hear, the influence you have around you will always create the thoughts you have. Now, I'll say that again. What you see, what you hear, and the influences around you influence and create your thoughts. The thoughts you have will become ideas, and those ideas will create feelings within you. The feelings you have to be expressed. And the only way you can express feelings is through action. The actions you take, if you repeat those actions regularly, will create habits. Habits will form and fashion your character, your behavior, and ultimately lead to the results you have. So the question you should ask yourself is simply this: how do I change my habits? And what are the wealthy habits or the successful habits I have to adopt? Well, there's so many of them, I can't give you all of them in the next few minutes, but let me start by saying this. Think about this. If you have a glass that is filled with Coke, how do you displace the Coke and have that glass filled with water? Now, this is not rocket science, it's not something complicated. It's really simple. You have a glass with Coke, but you want that glass to hold water. How do you get rid of the Coke? Now, you might say, well, I need to pour out all of the Coke and fill up the glass with water. Well, the mind doesn't work that way, because remember, what we're dealing with is ideas. Ideas are the birthing ground for habits. You cannot simply get rid of a thought. You must displace a thought. And what we do is we use a principle called substitution. And that simply means, for example, if I asked you not to think about a red Ferrari, whatever you do in the next 30 seconds, do not think about a red Ferrari. Whatever happens, don't think about it. Don't imagine it. Don't even think about the color. Don't even think about what it looks like. Don't even think about who is driving it. Now, whilst I was saying that, I can bet anything that the picture in your mind was a red Ferrari. Why? Because the mind will always move towards a dominant thought. Now, whilst you were thinking about that red Ferrari, if I were to ask you a simple question, what are you wearing right now? What colors are you wearing? You know, what are you wearing in terms of colors? Are you wearing a shirt? What color is the shirt? Are you wearing trousers? What color is the trousers? Are you wearing a dress? What color is the dress? Now, as soon as I made that second statement, that question, did you notice something? Your mind shifted from the Ferrari and has moved towards another thought. And that is how you change the contents in the glass. You displace one thought with another. So if this represented all of the habits that you have that have not created the life you want, the only way you can change and fill up your mind with good habits and good ideas is simply to start pouring in water. And as you pour in water into your mind, as you keep pouring this water, the water will displace the Coke until it starts to neutralize and neutralize and neutralize. And over time, eventually this will become water. Really that simple. So how do you change the habits that you have? Simple. Study. Education. Because through education, you will get wisdom. And I found that there are 4 areas that are essential if you want to change your habits. The first is study the habits, rather study the beliefs of those who are successful. Next, study, in my opinion, their actions, what they do. Next, learn and study their habits. Next, study their lifestyle. Now, what are beliefs? Beliefs go together with philosophies. Actions will go together with activities. And with these activities I'm talking about, there's a sequence to how successful people live. This sequence is based on what we call a routine. I'll give you a good example. Michael Jordan became a remarkable basketball player because every morning he would wake up and he would throw free throws. He would practice for at least an hour very early in the morning before anyone was up. And he did that so regularly, so consistently, that it became a routine. Your routine is the golden gateway to any future you want. So you must understand that it's not just about the activity. Now, this is what Wallace Watto said. He said that, and I paraphrase this in a way, he said that you don't get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. You can get 2 people doing the same activities, exactly the same activities, but they're getting different results. Why? Because one of them is doing it in a certain way, meaning he's doing it with intent, he's doing it with focus, he's doing it with a goal in mind, he's doing it with purpose, he's doing it to create value. The other person is just doing it. So you need to study the actions of the successful people. Next, you have to study their habits. What do they do daily? See, well, poor people do occasionally and irregularly what the wealthy do consistently and passionately. Consistency is the gate to change. Consistency decides who wins and who loses. What you do daily will decide who you become in the future and permanently. So you've got to study their habits. Now, finally, you've got to study lifestyle. Now, lifestyle is something that we're not taught well. In my opinion, I think success has a formula: achievement, fulfillment, and lifestyle. Achievement is what you do. Fulfillment is how you feel. Lifestyle is how you live. With achievement, you can create success. You can achieve your goals. You can get wealth. You can get money. But money doesn't create happiness. With fulfillment, you can get happiness and joy. But fulfillment, in terms of happiness and joy, doesn't put money in your pocket. Now, you can have happiness in terms of you being fulfilled. And also, you can actually be creating a level of success that far exceeds what most people would dream of. But you don't know how to live. You haven't been taught on how to live. And so I believe that lifestyle is so essential. And that lifestyle deals with how you interact with people, how you view life, what you consider to be important, how you get along, how you study, how you grow. They're all important. The more you fill up this glass with clean water, which is in effect the four components I've talked about of the successful, what you find is that slowly, as you study, as you learn, what you find is slowly, a lot of the beliefs and a lot of the habits you have will begin to change. They'll begin to change. And you will start to become someone new. In other words, what you will become is someone who is renewed in their mind. Now, the Apostle Paul says, "Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind," meaning you've got to keep learning. And these are the things you must learn if you want to create success. Now, we've talked about wealth, but you could easily have substituted this with love. You could have substituted this with happiness. You could have substituted this with health. You could have substituted this with any category or area of life.